Okay, I just want to do a bit of analysis on the basic sine and cosine graphs and some terminology as well. First of all, let me talk about the sine function. The sine function starts at 0 and ends at 0, of course. Now, what I mean by that is within one complete cycle. And so if you look at this region here, this is one complete cycle of the sine function because it's gone up to 1, down to -1, and back to where it started. And then it just repeats that pattern. It goes up again to 1, down to -1, and back to 0 where it started. And it does the same thing in the reverse direction. So this is what we call one complete cycle of the sine function. And that has a length of 2 pi. So what we'll do is we'll call one complete cycle 1 period. And 1 period for the standard sine function is 2 pi. Our angle varies from 0 to 2 pi. You can see the same thing is true for cosine. If I look at this region, this is one complete cycle because it starts at 1, goes down to -1, and comes back to where it started, and then it repeats. Starts at 1, down to -1, back up to where it started. So this is one complete cycle of the cosine function. So 1 period for the cosine function also has a length of 2 pi. So the angle ranges from 0 to 2 pi. Now, I'm not picking on 0 to 2 pi for any special reason. It's the most commonly used period that we'll look at. But you could cut any 2 pi region out. For example, for sine, we could start at pi over 2 and look at pi over 2 up to this angle here, which is 5 pi over 2, and you also get a complete cycle, right? Starts at 1, goes down to -1, comes back to where it started. The point is that length is still 2 pi. From pi over 2 to 5 pi over 2 still has a length of 2 pi, a period of 2 pi. Similarly for the cosine function. Okay, another thing is the average value. If you look at the sine function, it oscillates around the x-axis. It's evenly distributed above and below the x-axis. The same thing goes for the cosine function. So the x-axis is where y is 0. So that's what we'll call the average value. Let's write it like this, actually. Don't want to confuse you. So the average value, the average y value, namely, of each of these functions is 0, right? Because it's evenly distributed around 0, so that's its average value. Okay, last we have what's called the amplitude, the height of the function basically. The amplitude is how far you can move away from your average value. So you can see you could go up 1 or down 1 in either case. So the amplitude is 1. It's how far away you can get from your average value. Now again, these are for the standard sine and cosine functions, but you can do transformations on these. You can shrink or grow the period from 2 pi. You can shrink or grow your amplitude, and you can shift your average value up or down away from the x-axis. You could also use negatives to flip your graph over, right? Reflect it over the x-axis. So all of these things could change. But here are the basics of the sine and cosine functions.